Hare Krishna. Let us understand Bhagavad Gita as it is, written by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. So let us understand these chapters section by section. Before we begin the discussion, let us offer our prayers to our spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada and Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Today let us understand the second section of chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita. The second section is from Shloka number 7 to Shloka number 12. This section is entitled Effects of Working in Devotion. So let us understand this section. In the previous section we understood that working in devotion is better than renunciation. By working in devotion, what happens to a devotee, what are the effects of working in devotion is described by Lord Krishna. So let us understand these things in this section. So Lord Krishna says, Yoga yukta vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriyaha sarva bhutatma bhutatma kurvan napina lipyate. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. So one of the effects of working in devotion is described by Krishna here. Yoga yukto vishuddhatma. The one who is working in devotion, Yoga Yukta means one who has connected himself with the Supreme through love and devotion. So Yoga Yukta Vishuddhatma. Vishuddhatma means purified soul. The soul is purified when it situates itself in its original constitutional position. The original constitutional position of the soul is to always render service to Krishna. Jivera Swarupahoy Nitya Krishna Das. So the Jiva's original position is to always be a loving servant of Lord Krishna. So this is called purified soul. Now in this material condition, we have forgotten who am I, we have forgotten our relationship with Krishna, and we are all thinking that I am independent and we are all making our own independent arrangements for enjoying in this material world independent of Krishna. So this is called impure life. Material life is called impure life because it is not the reality. The reality is something else. The reality is Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. Everything belongs to the Supreme Lord Krishna. But in this material world, people think that this property belongs to me, this person is my wife, this person is my child, this person is my father. So we claim the ownership over property, ownership over relationships, and we claim that I am independent, I am supreme, I did this, I did that. So we claim over the results of our activities, we claim the ownership over so many assets in this material world. Actually these are all not correct because nothing belongs to us. Everything belongs to the Supreme Lord Krishna. So this is called impurity, impure life or impure soul. So one who comes in true knowledge that I am part of Krishna, I am eternal servant of Krishna, he is called Vishuddhatma. And such a person, he is Vijitatma, he is Vijitendriyaha. He is Vijita Atma and Vijita Indriya. Vijita Atma means he is self-controlled. He will not do any activity which doesn't please Krishna. He controls his mind and senses in such a way that the mind will always be thinking of how to please Krishna, and he uses his various senses. There are 5 working senses and 5 knowledge acquiring senses. He uses both Jnana Indriya and Karma Indriyas just for pleasing Krishna. Because he is self-controlled, because he controls his mind, because he controls his senses, he is Sarva Bhuta Atma Bhuta Atma. He is liked by everyone and he is dear to everyone, and everyone loves him and he loves everyone. Because everyone is part of Krishna, he loves everyone as parts of Krishna and tries to encourage them to become devotees of Krishna. Therefore, everyone likes him because he is a pure soul, his mind is pure, his senses are pure, he never puts anyone in anxiety, he never troubles others. Therefore, everyone likes him. And he performs activities which are good for everyone. So this pleases everyone. So this is one of the effect of working in devotion, effect of transcendental knowledge. Further, Krishna says, Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavid pashyan shrinvan sprishan jigran ashnan gachan swapan shvasan pralapan visrajan gratnan unmishan nimishan napi indriyan indriyartheshu vartanta iti dharayan. A person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. So one of the symptoms of transcendental knowledge here is described by Krishna, that even though a person who is enlightened, he is there within this body which is made of 5 knowledge acquiring senses which is called Jnana Indriyas and 5 working senses which are called Karma Indriyas. So the body and the bodily senses are always engaged in interacting with the sense objects in this material world. So he perfectly knows well that when he is eating, when he is breathing, when he is opening his eyes and closing the eyelids, so he knows that material body and the senses are engaged with their objects in this material world, and he himself is a person who is inside the body. Due to ignorance, people in this world think that I am this body and bodily pains are mine and bodily pleasures are mine. They want to minimize and avoid bodily pains and they want to increase bodily pleasures. This is what the whole world is about. They are all working hard for material sense pleasures. How to get more and more sense pleasures. This is the whole goal of people in this material world. But those who are enlightened, they know very well that actually I have nothing to do with this material body. This material body is also an energy of Krishna. It is also made by Krishna. And according to the laws of nature, this body gets attracted to certain objects. This body doesn't like certain objects. The senses are engaged with interacting with the sense objects. Krishna says in one more place in the Bhagavad Gita, Indriyasya indriyasyarthe ragadveshau vyavasthitau tayorna vashamagacche tauhyasya hi paripantinau. Krishna says Indriyasya indriyasyarthe ragadveshau vyavasthitau. This body is so designed that the senses are attracted to certain objects and they don't like certain objects. So we are all hankering for those objects which are pleasurable and we want to avoid those objects which are not pleasurable. So this is the material life. So an enlightened person, a person in true knowledge, he knows that actually whatever is happening in this body, it is all actually material body and bodily senses interacting with the external world, and he himself has nothing to do with these actions and reactions. And because he is controlled in mind and senses, he maintains the body as a yantra, as a vehicle given by the Supreme Lord. He uses this body as an instrument just for pleasing the Lord, just for serving the Lord. So in that way, he lives with detachment. He is not affected by any pains or pleasures of this material body. He is neutral. He upkeeps the body for the sake of utilizing the body for serving the Lord, as long as he is supposed to live in this material body. This is how a devotee lives. Further, Krishna says, Brahmanyadhaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yaha lipyate na sa papena padma patram ivambhasa. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme God, is not affected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. So, as I was explaining, a person who is in divine knowledge, who has enlightened himself, he performs activities just for pleasing the Supreme Lord. Therefore, all his activities are pure, and he is not affected by the results of his action. A devotee is engaged in so many activities to please the Lord, to preach the message of Krishna in this world. So he collects funds, he constructs temples, he installs the deity form of the Lord, he worships the Lord, and he goes around and teaches people about Bhagavad Gita. In that way, he is very busy. So while performing these activities, there are sometimes material losses and material gains, but he is not affected by the so-called loss or gain. And because these are all not material activities, it's not meant for his personal pleasures, it is meant for pleasing Krishna. So he is free from all the reactions of that work. On the other hand, a materialist who works only for his benefit, he is affected by pains and pleasures. He is affected by loss or gain of those actions. On the other hand, just like a lotus leaf which is floating in water, even if some water drops fall on the leaf, it is actually untouched. Those water drops will anytime fall down when the wind blows, and the lotus leaf, because of a certain coating, waxy coating on the leaf, it doesn't allow the water drops to stick on the leaf. So in the same way, a person in divine consciousness, in Krishna consciousness, even though when he is living in this world, is living in the body, he doesn't take pleasure or pain by bodily sensual activities. He is aloof from the body, he is aloof from the sensual demands. He utilizes the body for pleasing Krishna, and he takes the soul pleasure within the soul. That is the true pleasure, and in that way he is free from all sinful actions. So that is what Krishna is explaining here with an example, very beautiful example given by Krishna. Further, Krishna says, Kayena manasa buddhya kevalairindriyairapi yoginah karma kurvanti sangam tyaktvatma shuddhaye. The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification. Sometimes people think that spiritual life means we should stop all activities and go to some secluded place, sit down and do some meditation. Krishna clearly says that Kayena manasa buddhya kevalair indriyairapi yoginah karma kurvanti sangam tyaktva atma shuddhaye. Krishna is clearly telling the yogis, they engage Kayena manasa buddhya. Kaya means this body, manasa means mind, buddhi means intelligence. So yogis, they utilize their body, their mind, their senses, their intelligence, everything for acting for the pleasure of Krishna. They utilize everything for pleasing Krishna. Sangam tyaktva, but they are aloof from the results of those actions. And they act for the sake of purification. As I was explaining, a purified soul is that soul who has realized that he is eternal servant of Krishna. We are individuals, Krishna is an individual, and we have a loving relationship with Krishna as an eternal servant. So one who understands these things and engages in activities at the spiritual level as servant of Krishna, he is Vishuddhatma. So yogis or devotees of Krishna, they always act for the sake of pleasing Krishna, and in that way they purify themselves from this material energy. Further, Krishna says, Yukta karma phalam tyaktva shanti mapnoti naishtikim ayukta kama karena phale sakto nibadhyate. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the results of all activities to me. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. So here is one of the effects of working in devotion. Krishna is telling, Yukta karma phalam tyaktva shantim apnoti naishtikim. One who offers the results of his work just for the pleasure of Krishna, he attains unadulterated peace. Shantim apnoti naishtikim. On the other hand, a person who works only for his own personal enjoyment without recognizing the gifts of the Lord, without knowing that everything is given by the Supreme Lord Krishna, if one thinks that I am the doer, everything is done by me, I worked hard, without knowing the various factors involved in the results. So if one out of false ego takes pride in whatever he achieves in this world, actually he becomes entangled in this material world because he doesn't recognize that everything is given by the Supreme Lord. He takes false pleasures in the bodily enjoyment, bodily sense pleasures. So he has to take birth again and again in this world. So he becomes entangled in this material world. On the other hand, a devotee, he knows that I have nothing to do with this material body, I have nothing to do with material world. And he knows that everything belongs to God, everything belongs to Krishna. So he doesn't renounce the material world artificially. He utilizes the material world, all the products created in this material world by various living beings. He offers everything for pleasing Krishna. He encourages every living being to become devotees of Krishna. In that way, he actually renounces the feeling of sense enjoyment, feeling of ownership. He knows that everything belongs to Krishna and everything should be used for pleasing Krishna. So because of this attitude of Krishna consciousness, he enjoys unadulterated peace. On the other hand, a materialist is always in anxiety. If he is in poverty-stricken condition, he is in anxiety to earn more money. If he becomes a wealthy person, he is in anxiety of who loots his money. He is worried about thieves and rogues. So both poverty is also a cause of anxiety, and becoming rich is also cause of anxiety. At all stages of life, there is anxiety for a materialist. So further what Krishna explains, let us understand in the next section. Hare Krishna.